Get more confidence. Get that promotion. Get moving up the corporate ladder. Get a better gig with an MBA from Mays Business School at Texas A&M University. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, now you can take your career to a whole new level with a full-time MBA in College Station and convenient weekend options at Houston City Center. Texas A&M has a program to suit your schedule. Visit mba.tamu.edu. And Giga Maggie.
Howdy, welcome to Mays MasterCast. I'm Shannon Deere, the Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs, here with your remarkable host, Ben Wiggins. Hi,
Hey,
Ben.
Shannon. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We are sort of moving back toward something vaguely resembling a new normal. I see you shaking your head.
No, you keep saying that, and I disagree.
Keep disagreeing with me.
Yes, I can't handle this being the new normal.
Yeah, no, I don't love it either, but
I haven't changed. I haven't done anything different really since March. So, I mean, I'm still in pretty solid quarantine. So maybe that's why it feels like this can't be the new normal. But nope, I'm not buying that.
can I tell you your hair looks really nice today?
Oh, thanks. I mean, I didn't do anything to it once again because that's COVID, but I brushed it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Looks very shiny.
Thanks. My mom asked me if I got my hair colored this weekend, and I was like, no, I haven't been to the hairdresser since March. So, no, but must be the sun.
One other important thing. It's a beautiful day in Aggieland.
It's a beautiful day in Aggieland. Football started, so that's pretty normal.
Yes, that's kind of one of the things that for me was like, all right, well, we're here, whatever here is.
Yeah. No, I refuse to accept this as the normal. Sorry. Today on the show, though, we have an amazing guest, Dima Elissa. She is the founder and CEO of Vis-Med-3D, a 3D biomedical design and consulting firm that 3D prints body parts. How stinking cool is that? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
3D printing. I love it. And 3D printing of body parts. So crazy. Very cool.
I like it too. And I'm also enjoying how excited you are about it.
I know. I love it. We had a student group a while back that 3D printed prosthetics, like prosthetic legs. And it was really, really cool too. I was very inspired by them. So Dima was selected by Chicago Magazine as one of the top women in tech, Chicago Innov's 50 on Fire, and by Chicago Tribune's BlueSky Vault as one of the top 100 entrepreneurs in Chicago. She holds a BA in chemistry from Hanover College, which she mentions as being the Harvard of the Midwest, and has earned her MBA from Texas A&M. So we are proud to have her as a Texas A&M MBA. Dima also has been named as a technology and innovation lead for AMWA, which is American Medical Women's Association Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. She also has a TED Talk, so you can search that. Kyle will post it with the show as well and see her talk a little bit more about her business and the impact she's looking to make on the world as well. We hope you enjoy the episode with Dima.
Yes, enjoy the episode. And the title of the TED Talk is One Size Doesn't Fit All, Personalizing Medicine. And then her name is attached to the title as well.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's roll.
We welcome Dima Elissa to the show. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did you have a nice weekend?
It's probably one of the last best weekends of the year, weather-wise, and I maximized it. I had this time of my life with friends and fun on water and sand and sun. So.
Wow, water and sand and sun. Where were you, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, so I actually live on the lake, but I went to visit some friends in Indiana, where I grew up, at a lake called Wawasee. I'd never been there, but it was a lot of fun. Ran into people who knew people that I had gone to either grade school with or college or both. So it was really a nice experience.
Sounds like a great time, and we'll definitely come back to Indiana momentarily.
Indeed.
But for the moment, what is your favorite superpower?
So many to choose from, but what I can tell you at this stage in my life, it is the acknowledgement that I'm advancing in age, grace, and wisdom. And embracing that and knowing that helps me to really optimize myself and evolve to a place and space that I can provide for others while maintaining charity at home in this being.
Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about your background. You mentioned Indiana just now. So one of the questions we normally ask is where did you grow up? But do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like many Americans, I was not born originally in the U.S. I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, which is a place of great strife and travails, and has really the foreground or the background of great chaos. Politically, economically, religiously, it's struggled to maintain a balance and a steady state. And so my father moved us to Indiana, of all places. But that was largely because he had friends that he went to med school with in Chicago, where he did his residency and internship at Northwestern. And because there was so much chaos and turmoil, he was contacting one of his classmates, and they said, we really need a cardiovascular surgeon in this small town in Indiana. Would you be open to coming? And before you knew it, he and my mom moved the 3 kids, packed them up, and moved them to Indiana.
Okay. And how old were you when this happened?
It was about 7.
Okay.
Second grade, whatever that is. So it was a pivotal time, but didn't speak a word of English, didn't really know what I was about to encounter. So no friends, no family, just a very new life.
Yes. And so through your childhood, there were 5 of you total, 3 kids, 2 parents?
Exactly.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your road through Mays.
So my road to Mays was an unexpected, serendipitous situation because I was planning on collecting my MBA here in Chicago, where I'd spent most of my career after college, and saved for 4 years in Boston, where I had been working with the NutraSweet company to build a new venture for them. And that's largely what I did for NutraSweet, new ventures, and that gave me a lot of the entrepreneurial leanings. And I knew that, as an entrepreneur, you sometimes need a little discipline and structure and academic background to be able to really be more efficient in what you're doing and how you're thinking about launching new businesses. So an MBA was always in my vista, but I kept putting it off because business was doing really well, and it expanded into, of all places, Texas, a confluence of both professional and personal factors brought me to the Woodlands, where Mays had just started their satellite MBA program. So it was just the stars aligning, and was really a unexpected, serendipitous opportunity that I just couldn't pass up. And it was really nice because I didn't have the distractions of Chicago. I was new to Texas, so I got a chance to really immerse myself in the program, in the fellow students, and the community. And so it was a perfect segue, and the teachers and the caliber of professors and content from McAnally to Shady to Mahajan, just fabulous. And it was on par with anything that I had expectations for in terms of an academic experience. And, the road to Mays happened unexpectedly, but what I can tell you is that it made a fundamental shift in a lot of the ways I conducted my business, both from a human capital standpoint to evaluating projects and figuring out early and often when a particular venture made sense and when it didn't. Looking at funding and capital raises was really important, which I had yet to do in my career, or didn't really need to, but there are some real advantages to understanding the economics of business, and really comes down to knowing what the fundamentals are and how to maintain the fundamental aspects of how you select the business, how you grow a business, how you scale a business. And so I was very fortunate to have a great experience for those 18 months. And I met a lot of fantastic friends that have become like family, and really enjoyed that experience. And I would encourage anyone who has a yen to experience an exceptional cerebral and social experience in business, that they consider the Mays School for their next venture.
The faculty you named are certainly dear to our hearts as well. So good bull to them.
Yes.
And glad you had such a good experience. Let's talk about VisMed. When you and I spoke recently, you talked a little bit about forays into PPE. And for our listeners, the essay on iGiant from your website describes the company as a global research and consulting firm which uses 3D printing technology to provide a personalized look at a pre-op patient's body. But it seems like what you may be branching into new ventures or expanding on existing ventures as well. So tell us a little bit about what what the company is spending its time doing right now.
So I mentioned earlier that I chase that shiny new thing. And when I was introduced to 3D printing, it just captured my heart, and I saw so much potential that it was just explosive. Yeah. And that's one of the industries that has emerged largely because of patent expirations and new materials and new interest in using that layer by layer technology to build really unique, novel geometries in structures and physical products. And so it's booming in virtually every sector. For me, the healthcare technology angle is where we largely anchored our company's focus. And we have taken 3D printing into the biomedical aspect, which is not the regenerative aspect of stem cells or materials that would replace tissue, bone, etc. We've really looked at it from a non-FDA standpoint is really how I differentiate to a large degree. That's taking a little liberty there, but we recognize that the preoperative tools, the ability to create a replica of a patient is so valuable, because we are as different on the inside as we are on the outside. And if your surgeon is operating more blindly than they should, our tools kind of lift that veil of information and knowledge and help them to visually rehearse, to prep plan. They use less materials because they know exactly what they need to do. The area of precision and personalized medicine has expanded to an incredible scale and value in the medical world. And what we are able to do is take a scan like a CT or MRI, even x-rays, and convert them into the right 3D model. So all those slices of information we reconstitute into a digital form that can then be delivered through a 3D printer, and ostensibly with various materials to achieve as close to real the form factor of an organ or a particular rupture in the vessels of the physiology of a patient, brain tumors, anything like that. We're able to really create and present, usually for non-emergency type surgeries. This has become a really valuable and highly desired tool for many surgeons. And so that's what brought us into the 3D realm. So today we are taking the engineering from the technology side, which we use to optimize workflows in that 3D space, as long with the engineering of designing visual products and or physical replicas of body parts into the pivot of PPE products. And how that came about is, as you know, I do a lot of work with the American Medical Women's Association, and I have many doctor friends that during the pandemic introduction reached out and said, how can we possibly put ourselves at risk because we don't have enough PPE, and there was a significant shortage or products that were not sufficient to protect the ones who are saving lives. And so I had some hard conversations, and as you may know, the medical field is riddled with more suicide and depression and other concerning conditions that I just really felt like if I could help produce something that could solve the problem, and again, solving the problem that presents itself is largely who I am. And I've assembled a team, including doctors, to help us design and shape a simple face shield that came in several forms: a 3D printed form, an all plastic form, and a paper-based eco-friendly form that we're selling today. In fact, here is one of the shields. This is for an anesthesiologist. Gives them great visibility. It's lightweight. It has a lot of benefits to it, and it's very affordable, which was a lot of the problem that we were trying to conquer. And I think it's about trying. It's about putting yourself out there. It's about wanting to leave the world better or healthier than it found you. And that's my premise in life. And I think if you can, you should. And if you do, you have only upside to realize. And I think that's kind of what we've done of late is put our talents to use where needed the most.
Yes. You talked a little bit when we spoke last week, you talked a little bit about some of the frustrations involved with this process. And I'll let you describe the specifics of those frustrations in whatever detail you wish. But you used the phrase, people wanting to take their pound of flesh last week. So the world of PPE has now become everybody's expertise, right? Right.
And everybody thinks they can, and they should jump into this extremely broken supply chain, which we didn't really realize how bad it was. But when these shortages presented themselves, and doctors and really any essential worker could not get sufficient protection at that time that they needed to conduct their business, everybody started changing their job interests to sourcing supplies. And what I can tell you is that anybody involved in PPE doesn't necessarily have the background or expertise to really understand global business operations, ethics, conduct. And so the level of professionalism was blown out the window. There's every manner of salesman out there trying to convey that they have access to XYZ and that they have the ability to solve your supply problem, whatever it is: gowns, face shields, gloves, masks, and they're just literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. And there are counterfeit products out there. There's 4-grade, mismarked product, vaporware products. And so there's been a tremendous amount of gouging in the marketplace, which will, I hope, be level set. But what we've really tried to do is not only create products, but we are vetting suppliers that we know and have known through deep experienced relationships with companies and individuals that have been in this space forever. And I think what we stand by is giving and creating quality, reputable relationships to those that need products, and sourcing with a tremendous confidence for hospitals, distributors, and other large Fortune companies that need these products to get to the right hands within the right time frame. And so it's been a really interesting observation of how the Wild Wild West has returned, and largely in the PPE space.
Right. If there are, so many of our listeners are likely buying in this space right now. If there are, so just being frank, if there are any organizations to be aware of, perhaps, or failing that, if there are any warning signs to look out for in the process of what you're talking about, do you have any recommendations for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some really critical milestones that if you're buying product, you need to be aware of.
Okay.
Let's take gloves, for example. I get offers for gloves that are landed in the U.S., which theoretically de-risks the idea that you have to wait for product that may or may not come, that may or may not exist. And the financial transactions really need to be very well vetted. A lot of people have lost a lot of money putting money in escrow, and then there's no product and the escrow disappears, and so do the people. You really need to vet your suppliers, your intermediaries, and understand that in this day and age, there's a lot of hands in the pipeline of a transaction. And so really working to do a lot of diligence. But landed gloves in the billions and millions rarely are real. And even in the smaller quantities, also not real. But there are specific countries that only manufacture these latex and nitrile gloves. So you need to really understand, and I know more about gloves than I ever thought I would, and gowns, knowing that there's an FDA certification, and there's some really critical pieces that you have to vet and have diligence on. Really understanding the dynamic and the confluence of factors that can provide confidence versus, shady activity is really important. And I know the FBI has a website with a list of companies to stay away from or individuals. And a lot of people either have gone to jail or are going to go to jail because they either gouged or transacted on
bad faith.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting things happening in that PPE space. It's normalizing a little bit, but the factories are sold out. And so getting gowns is going to take, until next year to actually get product in the mix. And so I think that's comes down to your relationships and your network again. And that's really where we've excelled, is having that reliable network, those people that we know we can trust. And trust does not happen easily in the PPE space.
Makes sense. Listeners, we'll have that FBI link for you in the show notes if you care to go look at it. What does the phrase one size fits all, or maybe more precisely, one size doesn't fit all, what does that mean to you and your work?
So I talked a little bit about precision medicine, personalized medicine, and that we're all as different on the inside as we are on the outside. Well, there's another layer of complexity, which is that sex and gender also are important factors in healthcare. And considering how drugs affect women differently than men, how assumptions and biases skew understanding of perhaps certain diseases and disease states or conditions that tend to be associated anecdotally with women versus men, like heart attacks. Everybody puts it on men more than women, but the scale of heart attacks is growing and increasing in women, and it's just not from a common accepted knowledge that women have heart attacks. And so I think that's largely what we wanted to convey, is that men get breast cancer. As much as that sounds odd, but it's true that there are physiological conditions that manifest differently in each gender. And I think that's why we need to really have a seat at the table as women to voice our diversity and our understanding of drugs that, if in the case of drugs that affect women differently than men, and maybe we need a different dose, or, there are adverse scenarios for that, the cognitive Alzheimer's symptoms happen differently. And so I think because of that, we really need to be open to examining things. A lot of our drugs have been tested on largely white male populations, and not including a diverse community, both from a gender but also a race standpoint. And so we don't have the same level of comfort and confidence in how those drugs work in those different groups and communities, cultural communities. And so I think it's really important to understand the layers of why one size of treatment doesn't fit all, and that we are not only different physiologically, but we react differently physiologically to medicines, to disease states. And if we're going to treat properly, we need to have a holistic view of the person, the individual, and all the factors that we can accumulate that will help us to be better informed in formulating a treatment plan. I think that's really important. And what's happening now from a technology standpoint is fascinating because we're getting a sense of how all this data is being collected through these electronic medical record systems. And we can expect in the future to have the ability to distill information on individuals and correlate them with historical genetic relevance from their families to better discern and distill their conditions and their pre-existing conditions that may affect or predict issues that may impact them downstream. So you treat everybody on the same, you kind of meet them where they are. You treat them for what they have and who they are, not just more generically because you have a headache, here's an aspirin. No, there might be something more to it. And you may be predisposed to brain tumors. You may be predisposed to Alzheimer's or migraines as a genetic blueprint from your family's genetics. And so the more we collect that information and are able to discover some relevant attributes across their health history in a longitudinal fashion where we collect all the information about them. And that's going to require these EMRs and EHRs to open up or allow the data to be shared and exchanged so that we can properly link and have access to personal information. So again, that's a really cutting edge concept where, in fact, blockchain comes to bear and being able to share and exchange data in select communities. That could be the key to unlocking access to all of our data if we're being treated in Houston or if we're being treated in Chicago, that our doctors can have the ability to exchange that real-time information so that they can properly treat us for what our conditions are presenting.
Why do you think medicine has historically focused so much on more of a one-size-fits-all approach?
It's like anything. The easier route, the more likely it'll be taken. And nobody likes change. To do what I'm talking about, right, takes a lot of work and a lot of change from all of the biases and all the preconceived notions and all of the historical evidence of a male-dominated industry it's how it's been done. And that's largely the truth about most situations, be they business or personal or professional. And I think we're working really hard to open eyes and to recognize that for us in the entrepreneurial world, I like to say that if necessity is the mother of invention, then diversity is the parent of success. And it's really understanding that the more factors of diverse thinking and diverse voices, the better the end product, whatever it may be. Treating your health condition or running a business in a boardroom. And I think that we've seen evidence of that over and over. It's just getting people to embrace it and change it.
Yes, that definitely jives for us. The inclusive mindset is something that's really important to us at Mays, as you know. Rapid fire. What is your fondest memory of Texas A&M?
So many to choose from. I think it's the camaraderie and the social aspect of meeting the academics, unparalleled, right? But truly the experience of meeting your colleagues and understanding what they do and where they are and their roads, their journeys of why they're here. And really, I looked at it as a microcosm of the world. And we were all kind of competing to be our best selves in teams and in this bubble of a class together. And I think, that sense of help and support and working together, that dynamic. And I mentioned sports was very seminal to my youth and to my family, and we're all very big sports fans. And I think that's one of the linchpins of my success is building teams, and working in teams at A&M really just played into that area that I love so much is working together, trying to achieve goals, filling in gaps, shoring up. And I often say this, I lift as I climb. So when I'm successful, I bring those behind me to not only be as successful as me, but I hope they go up and beyond me. And I think that kind of mindset is truly how the program works and operates. And I really enjoyed my time there. It was pretty grueling, trying to balance work and an MBA, but
I know the feeling.
Right?
If you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
So I've become an addict of pivot with Kara Swisher and Steve Galloway.
Okay.
And I find their lens on technology and global politics, global levers of business, and how they look at the world in a macro and micro level. And they're fun to listen to. So I think they would be, either one of them would be just a phenomenal mentor for a day, without question.
Fantastic. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
People think I've had a very easy journey and that life has been a breeze. And what I can tell you is we all have our struggles. We all have our challenges. It's just in how you embrace them and how you report back on them. And that notion of resiliency is through and through my fiber, without question. And I think, people just see what they want to see, and they don't really believe that the journey is in the ups and the downs, and I think that would have to be it. And I always say, argue your limitations and they shall be yours. I think that is a tenet I've lived by and encourage others to consider in their journey. And I think Richard Bach said it. And I think we are our own limiting factor, and that's what I choose not to do. And that's perhaps why I come across to others as, super confident and super successful. And, it hasn't always been that way. But I used to, in fact, if I think back on it, I didn't used to speak much. I would sit and observe, and those observational skills helped me to really understand people. And if I can tell you, there was a watershed moment where finally I started speaking my voice and my thoughts, and I listened to myself and I was like, who is this person talking? Right? It's like that moment of understanding you have value and you should be contributing it more. And sometimes we're overshadowed by people that just speak louder and more often. But I've learned that sometimes when I have the opportunity to speak and share what's inside me and I let it out, it's pretty valuable for others. At least I'm told. So again, with advancing age, grace, and wisdom comes a sense of confidence in self that I really embrace.
That's beautiful. I love that. Do you have anyone you'd like to send good bull?
So when I was in Chicago, I met an incredible young lady who happened to be an Aggie. Her name is Christy Dula, and she is now working for the state of Illinois as the Office of Department of Commerce and Economic Innovation. And she has been an incredible supporter and just a connector for me in the city of Chicago. Very smart. And the fact that she's one of the few Aggies that I know here in Chicago has been really wonderful. And we work in the same spaces and innovation and entrepreneurship. So bull and gig 'em to Christy Dula.
Good bull and gig 'em. Dima, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you joining us. What a lovely discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and wishing you the best. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, for our MasterCast top 3 takeaways, I wanted to start with this FBI list of Shady PPE. Dima couldn't say it that way, but we will. Shady PPE people, not okay.
Right. Not good.
Not good.
And we're glad that she gave us that resource. So definitely for our listeners, if you are in that area, check out the list. We will have it for you in the show notes.
Yeah, crazy. I had no idea. I also, for all of our everyday lives, those of us who don't buy mass amounts of PPE, but who are buying masks, those net gaiters apparently actually make it worse than not wearing a mask because they aerosolize droplets. They make them smaller. And so they can hang in the air longer or something like that. So don't wear a gaiter. Wear a real mask. Sorry. Even though they're more comfortable. But like there's just so much we don't know, right? Even with, trying hard and good intentions, it can be difficult.
Yeah. Now that like masks are going to be a part of life for a while, I want masks that make me look more like a ninja.
Okay. I hear ya.
So
what would be a mask that makes you look like a ninja?
Well, I mean, black is the default color and just sort of the way that it fits. And if it looks like sleek, they use different materials. Some of them are cotton, some of them are made out of something else. I want something that's like, has like a little bit of shine to it.
I'll get you one that's shiny and black and just says, I am a ninja.
Please do. Please do. I would absolutely wear that.
I look like a ninja, right? Question mark.
Have you seen the shirt?
Yeah, that doesn't come up on my Amazon feed. It doesn't give me ads for
riveting
ninja
podcast material for our listeners. Oh, it's a shirt that says, ask me about my ninja disguise. And then when you pull it up over your face, it has a ninja's face on it.
So I have to see your stomach, but I can see your ninja face.
Yeah, sorry about that. You have to look at my stomach.
I'm going to need you to double t-shirt that one.
Here.
Oh no.
Yes.
That is unfortunate.
Yes. No, it's very fortunate. It's the most fortunate.
Our listeners will have to Google that one.
Just search Amazon, ask me about my ninja disguise shirt.
Oh yeah, you'll find it. You'll find it.
Much to Shannon's dismay.
Much to my dismay. Have you watched Cobra Kai on Netflix? Not that's exactly ninjas, but
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes. I liked it.
It's so cute.
So those are our top 3 takeaways for today's episode. You're welcome, listeners.
Ninja shirt, Shady PPE, and your new TV show list.
Indeed.
But for our second takeaway, I was really glad that Dima mentioned the differences in symptoms and the need for diversity in medical trials across gender. So differences in symptoms across genders, and then the need for diversity in medical trials. There's a lot of, like she said, most medical trials are conducted with white men, and different genders, even different races, can process medicine differently. And so it's important to include a lot of diversity in medical trials. But one of the reasons women typically had been excluded from medical trials is because of being of childbirth age. So they were excluded because the pharmaceutical companies were afraid of of women being pregnant and the risks to pregnancy, which I didn't know that. I mean, it's not like it was some nefarious reason, of course, that they were excluded, but it was in an effort to protect women and babies, or maybe even to protect the company legally. But that was part of the reason, which I didn't know, but I was reading about it a few days ago.
One other thing that I wondered about, there were actually a bunch of follow-up questions that I wanted to ask that we just didn't really end up able to get to, was when they just post an open trial for anyone, regardless of gender, what's the number of men who show up versus the number of women? And is it helpful then to incentivize or to incent women differently than men in an effort to, make sure that you're able to evaluate for both genders equally?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly not my area of expertise, but an interesting issue that I'm glad that pharmaceutical companies are working towards increasing diversity. It seems to be a real priority for them. I've seen more diversity in the trials, for example, for the COVID vaccine, which is good.
Right. For what it's worth. The other follow-up questions that I wanted to ask were like best examples of how medicine works differently across genders, like kind of the most important ones to look out for.
One that's frequently cited are Ambien, or whatever the generic name for Ambien is. They only tested it on men, or primarily tested it on men, and then found out that the way that women metabolize Ambien, it actually results in them having the same dosage for a man and a woman will result in the woman having 2 times as much of the drug in their system because of the way that they metabolize it. So it was really a major issue when Ambien was first being prescribed. It's not just Ambien, it's whatever all of the other drugs are. That's the name brand that we know most, but whatever all of that type of drug is, that they were primarily tested on men and then didn't know. And so doctors were prescribing the same amount of dosage for men and women, even though it was twice as powerful for women, and it caused all kinds of issues.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wondered about was why heart attacks are on the rise among women.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. The thing I know about heart attacks and women is that their symptoms are very different. And so a lot of times, so I don't know if this is related to there being an increase, but a lot of times heart attacks in women weren't necessarily diagnosed as heart attacks because their symptoms were so different. Also because there is research that doctors don't recognize pain in women as much as they recognize pain in men. Like they'll discredit pain in women. And so I think that there were many undiagnosed heart attacks in women. So I don't know if that's contributing to the rise or if there's multiple factors contributing to the rise of heart attacks for women.
Don't know. It's good to be aware of all of this, though.
Yeah, it's good. It is good. For our last takeaway, we watched Big Brother, and there's a saying on Big Brother, expect the unexpected. And I felt like that was just kind of a theme in Dima's story. Like just with her, expect the unexpected, and she's going to do some really cool things and just see what's next. And that's kind of how she described her venture into 3D printing and just her life in general. She was very interesting, and I really enjoyed the conversation with her.
Yes, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to that, but I do appreciate her level of adaptability and her approach to life in terms of see a problem, go solve it. Man, that speaks to me. I love that approach to things. When you see something that you don't like, run straight at it. See if you can run right through it. And if you can't run right through it, then figure out if there's a doorway or if you can climb over it or if you can go under it or around it. Solve the problem. Just solve the problem.
Agreed. Ben, do you want to close us with a quote?
I would love to close us with a quote. And it's a short one today from Rilke, who we're going to be hearing more from him because that's where we are in the list. A piece of art is good if it is born of necessity. This, its source, is its criterion. There is no other.
Good quote for an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Dima.
Thanks for listening.
An MBA from Texas A&M University can take your career to a whole new level. With full-time and weekend options, Texas A&M suits your schedule. So get a better gig. Visit mba.tamu.edu.
Looking to start a podcast? Trying to tackle questions like, how do I record? How do I edit? How can I get music for my show? What equipment do I need? How do I distribute it? Good news. The podcast architects are here to help, whether that's from start to finish, fixing the audio quality, helping you get the episodes posted. Go to podconsulting.co. Everyone has something worth sharing with the world.